Sweet Tooth Final Season Recap. The journey of Gus and Big Man finally comes to an end as Netflix's Sweet Tooth releases its third and final season. The mystery revolving around the origin of the hybrids, the connection between them and the sick, and the future of the human-hybrid correlation, all vital questions are finally brought to a satisfactory conclusion with the third season of Sweet Tooth. With new and old enemies joining hands to stop Gus from fulfilling his destined role as the mediator of both the worlds, the little kid experiences life in its simplest form, with both its beauty and terror. So let's give you an overview, discuss the ending, and some hidden details of the series so that you can have the best viewing experience. A spoiler warning is in order as we will be discussing essential plot points and character details from the show, but if you're done watching it, kindly follow us through the video. And while you're at it, please like the video and subscribe to our channel as it helps us a lot. Episode 1. Setting the Stage. The first episode of the third season follows Gus, Bear, Jeopard, and Wendy as they continue their cross-country journey to reach Alaska to help Gus reunite with his adoptive human mother, Birdie. Gus believes that Birdie will be able to end the sickness for good, and his assistants will help her to do so. In a flashback sequence, explorer James Thacker's role in bringing the sick to humanity during the early 20th century is revealed, and the cave from which Thacker brought the disease is supposedly Gus's ultimate destination as well. Gus and co. come across an abandoned casino where they meet the Bingo Bandits, a bunch of socialites who have settled inside the casino since the Great Crumble and are fiercely protective of their possessions. This shows how the pandemic is different for the upper class and how the hoarding mentality is one of the toughest challenges that humanity is currently facing, as the old people, despite having one foot in the grave, are still unwilling to share their possessions. Later, the team faces an avalanche while moving on foot, which further proves how difficult their journey is going to be. On the other hand, Birdie gets attacked by one of Warlord Helen Zeng's men in the polar terrain of Alaska, and after getting momentarily incapacitated, she gets rescued by an unknown large hybrid creature. Meanwhile, Zeng prepares to hunt down Gus for her own nefarious purposes and commands her daughter Rosie to use her hybrid sons Wolf Boys to capture them. During the final moments of the episode, the team comes across Dr. Aditya Singh. Episode 2. Family Legacy. Aditya Singh turns out to be repentant for his past actions and seems adamant to follow Gus out of a sense of responsibility to end the sick and a long-shot belief in destiny. Aside from Gus, the rest of the team vehemently lashes out at Aditya for his sketchy history with the last men, but as Gus finds common ground after learning that Aditya had visions about the cave as well, he insists on him joining the team, and the group begrudgingly accepts his decision. The group comes across a family in the wilderness, whom they ask for help with transportation, but are rejected as the family patriarch Ven seems to be skeptical of them. However, with Ven's wife going into labor, Aditya offers his help in exchange for the transportation, and as Bear, Jep, and Aditya help Ven's wife, Gus and Wendy meet Ven's elder child, a young boy named Theo. Gus and Wendy are shocked to learn that Ven has forced his prejudice regarding hybrids on Theo, who himself is revealed to be a hybrid as well. This is a discreet messaging of societal and parental pressure that stops a child from reaching his or her true potential. Gus and Wendy teach the kid to accept his hybrid heritage. On the other hand, Ven tries to forcibly change the appearance of his newborn hybrid son and faces opposition from Aditya, Jep, and Bear. Upon realizing that Ven has sold them out, the team hurriedly rushes outside, and Theo helps by letting them escape in the family van. A flashback scene showcases Helen Zeng's deplorable treatment of her grandchildren, the Wolf Boys, much to Rosie's dismay. Meanwhile, Birdie's missing status concerns her close friend Sienna and her hybrid Arctic fox daughter Nukain at the Alaskan outpost. Episode 3. Sacrifices. Rosie Sang's past is revealed as her mother's influence had turned her into a cold-blooded killer, a testament to which is seen when she lets her Wolf Boys loose on Ven in exchange for information. She seems to be following her mother's way of parenting with a stern attitude. On the other hand, Gus and his team head for Nag's Reef, adhering to Theo's advice, as the last ship to Alaska, called Whale Song, is about to set sail from there. However, the group reaches there a little too late, and by then the ship has already left. But with the help of a local surfer girl named Coral, they manage to put together a makeshift boat to reach the ship, but the bitterness and distrust among Jep and Bear regarding Aditya reach a boiling point. However, as Aditya insists on accompanying Gus, the issue of overcrowding the small boat appears to be a new problem. Unfortunately, Rosie and her sons close in, prompting Gus, Jep and Aditya to flee in the boat while Bear and Wendy have no option but to stay. Bear gets attacked by one of the wolf boys and fatally stabs him. And as she gets captured by Rosie, Wendy decides to hide to later help her sister. Gus, Jep and Aditya finally find Whale Song and prepare to board the ship to reach Alaska. Episode 4, Growing Up. After boarding the Whale Song, Gus and his team soon realize that the entire ship has been infested with the purple flower, which brings sickness, and all of the crew members and passengers have passed away. With the ship remaining stationary in the middle of the sea, someone needs to access the command deck, and Gus takes the responsibility as being a hybrid, he is immune to the sick. However, as he leaves, Jep and Aditya lock horns once again, and the good doctor reminds Jep about a forgotten past, when 10 years ago, Aditya met him by chance and tried to convince him to return to his wife and newborn child, whom he had thought of abandoning. Meanwhile, in Zhang's captivity, Bear meets Jordan, an old teammate from when she had infiltrated the Last Men, who cunningly wrings out information about Gus's destination in Alaska. Zhang reveals her reason for capturing Gus is to extract his brain stem cell, considering him to be the first hybrid who can set the world order back to its normal condition, that is human birth and hybrid annihilation. Upon reaching the command deck on the ship, Gus gets the assistance of the ship's first mate, Darwin, who communicates with him over talkie-to to avoid contamination. The name Darwin here functions as a reminder that each species needs to adapt constantly and how evolution is imminent, as Darwin seems adamant about upholding the last wish of the captain to keep the ship away from the mainland to contain the infection. Gus is compelled to do an unthinkable task: get rid of the purple flowers, pay due respects to the departed, and send the infected corpses to their watery grave. Eventually, as the ship is freed of infection, Darwin reveals himself. Gus rushes back to bring Jep and Aditya to the command deck, and Darwin discovers that he had contracted the sick after all, and he promptly sacrifices his life by jumping into the ocean. But to help Gus reach his destination and fulfill his goal, he had set the course of the ship to Alaska. A heartbroken Gus manages to communicate with the shore as Sienna from the outpost intercepts his message, recognizing him as the hybrid kid Birdie talked so much about. Episode 5, A Familiar Shape. After reaching Alaska, Gus, Jep and Aditya are brought to the outpost by Sienna and Nuka, which is observed by one of Zhang's operatives. Sienna informs the team about Birdie's missing status, while Gus seems to have unlocked his precognitive senses as he manages to ascertain Birdie's probable location. Aditya finds Thacker's diary and gets obsessed with his age-old entries about the cave and probable events that brought the sick from it. However, before the team can venture together to find Birdie, Zhang and her operatives invade and take control of the outpost, prompting Nuka and Gus to flee through pipeways to avoid capture for the time being. Big Man tries to distract Zhang, but Aditya decides to betray him by joining forces with her as he has become too obsessed with his destiny to end the sick. Sienna manages to cause a distraction, which allows the majority of the outposters, including Jep, to flee from Zhang's captivity. Wendy, who had arrived in Alaska by stowing away in Zhang's cargo, rescues her captive elder sister Bear. Outside, Nuka directs Gus to a direct pathway, and as Gus progresses, he is chased by Rosie's wolf boys. After getting cornered, Gus is rescued by the same grown-up hybrid, locally known as the Caribou Man, who had previously rescued Birdie as well. Episode 6, The First Hybrid. The altercation with the wolf boys has left Caribou Man severely injured, and Gus helps him reach his home, which is an ancient church, through the blizzard. Inside the church, Gus finally meets his adoptive mother Birdie, and an emotionally charged moment follows. The Caribou Man, whose real name is Munakshiri, reveals his sordid life tale as being subjected to human persecution for life, ever since being separated from his mother back in the early 20th century. Birdie is shocked to learn that Burke, one of Thacker's crew members, fathered Munakshiri with one of the indigenous tribe members, and that he is the first naturally born hybrid. Sustaining fatal injuries at the hands of the wolf boys, Munak meets his end, but not before asking us not to go to the cave, as he believes the sick to be a natural remedy for the true disease that is humanity. He further mentions that returning to the cave might trigger something far more heinous than what has already been spread, something that Birdie takes to heart. Aditya, who has misinterpreted Thacker's journal entries as some cosmic karmic command to kill Gus inside the cave to undo the sick, requests that Zhang allow him a chance to do so as his way of seeking redemption. On the other hand, Sayana, Nuka, Jep and the rest of the outposters reunite in Birdie's former settlement. And as the outposters blame Sayana for bringing trouble, Jep manages to convince them to continue the good fight by inspiring them through Gus's example. Sayana and the outposters prepare to take back their outpost by ambushing Zhang's men and finding Gus's possible location through the Wolf Boys' trails. Zhang prepares for a final showdown. Episode 7 – Loss of Faith. Jep finds out about Birdie and Gus in the old church, while Bear and Wendy join the outposters to assist them in their upcoming struggle against Zhang's crew. Using Munak's map and other clues, Gus manages to pinpoint a location for the cave. And along with Jep and Birdie, he finally reaches the location. On the other hand, the outposters engage in a fierce battle and almost manage to drive out Zhang's men. But eventually, Jordan takes a drilling rig vehicle, which Zhang intends to use on the cave to extract whatever is inside of it in the hopes of exploiting it. Elsewhere, upon reaching the cave, Gus and co find a primordial tree of life with its antler-like structure, which Thacker had damaged quite a bit by trying to gain its sap, which resulted in the sick getting released in the first place. Gus contemplates letting the tree heal by removing Thacker's axe, but Birdie prohibits him, fearing consequences. She now believes in Munak's ideology as well, that humans deserve to perish away. Proving her perspective to be true, Aditya and Zhang arrive inside the cave and prepare to sacrifice Gus to fulfill Aditya's misguided notion of destiny. Birdie eventually sacrifices herself to save Gus, and the episode comes to a harrowing end. Episode 8 – The World for Meek and Mild. Witnessing his mother's death, Gus undergoes a radical change of perspective and states that, just like Munak and Birdie believed, humanity is indeed irredeemable. Zhang claims that she seeks to undo the worst mistake of humanity by restarting normal human birth and using the sap of the tree to create a virus that will exterminate the hybrids. On the other hand, Sayana, Pear and Wendy, along with the other outposters, manage to hold off Zhang's convoy and topple the drilling rig, which results in Jordan's death. Inside the cave, Aditya once again prepares to continue with the sacrifice, but undergoes a change of heart all of a sudden, after Zhang triggers his guilt by mentioning his wife's name Rani. Aditya allows Gus to escape, sending Zhang into a fit of rage as she removes the axe from the tree, which immediately accelerates the sick to such an extent that all the humans inside the cave, and even in the outside vicinity, nearly succumb to death. Gus desperately tries to stop the affliction to no avail and eventually sees a vision from Pabba, which allows him to reinstate his faith in humanity. Gus decides to let nature take its course and burns down the tree, which removes the existence of the sick at once, curing the people in the process. Zhang faces rejection from her own people, who turn their backs on her and disobey her commands to capture Gus and Jep. The cave starts collapsing and Aditya sacrifices himself to save Gus. Outside, Zhang's younger daughter Ginger gives birth to a hybrid child, much to Zhang's dismay. And as the outposters, Gus, Wendy, Bear, Jep and the rest of Zhang's men leave the vicinity, the jaded, confused warlord remains alone in her misery. Her family no longer aligns with her regressive, deranged ideals and moves on with their lives in peace. Rosie, finally free from her mother's oppressive command, has the life she always wanted along with her sons. This is the first time she treats them like her sons and not canines who blindly follow her like guards. The rest of Zhang's crew help the outposters to rebuild the establishment, perhaps as a form of making amends for their past actions. Humanity gets spared by nature for their transgressions, but as initially assumed, hybrids indeed turn out to be the better alternative selected by nature, as this generation of humanity turns out to be the last. A broken half of Gus's antler remains with the late Aditya, from where a sapling has started to emerge, implying that one day the Tree of Life will once again find its original form. Coming to Big Man, it remains unclear whether an injured Jeb makes it back to Yellowstone alongside Gus, Wendy and Bear, but it is implied that he has succumbed to his injuries on his way back. But as Papa had told Gus, death is never the end. In a glimpse into a far future, it is shown that Gus's home at Yellowstone has become a sanctuary for the hybrids, and elderly Gus and Wendy have raised a family, and their grandson asks Gus about Big Man. Gus shares that the Big Man indeed lives through the memories and stories that he shares with his future generation of his people, the hybrids. This is signified from the final scene of the series, where we see Gus and Big Man enjoy maple syrup together after returning to Yellowstone. It is a happy fantasy, as even though Jeb might not have survived, for Gus there is a part of him by his side, all the time, forever. The Inuit god Tekaitsatok was most likely referenced by the horned deity in the series. His biggest strength is his complete control over herds of caribou, which he uses to manage their migration routes and keep a healthy population for hunting. Because of his significance, he was essential to Inuit culture, and hunters honored him with rites and prayers before setting out. However, Gus can be seen as his avatar, who is a leading figure amongst the hybrids. But when he burned down the antlers, it marked the beginning of a new era. An era of peace, where the hybrids will no longer have to face challenges to associate with mainstream society, where they will no longer be hunted for being different. As the leader of this hybrid gang, Gus finally realized that being extremely malleable is not the best option for the species to survive. He needed to find a sweet spot where they will never attack the humans, and he also needed to prove that they are strong enough to protect themselves. Thank you for watching this video, and do share your thoughts in the comment section about your experience of watching Sweet Tooth Season 3. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to get your weekly dose of cinema and series. See you in the next one, and for the time being, we're signing off. Bye!